YouTube is good with y'all, man. Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Over the past few weeks, past few months, I've seen quite some people ask for a Detroit tutorial. So as you can see from the title, man, let's get straight to it. For today's beat, I collaborated with my boy 808 Leak. He actually made the sample I used in this beat, so he's gonna deconstruct the sample first, and after that, I'm gonna get into the effects, how I mixed everything, arranged everything, the drums. So yeah, let's get straight to it.
Alright, so boom, what's good YouTube? It's your boy 808 Leak on Dirkey's channel. But today, I'm gonna show you how I started off my melody, which ended up with Dirkey finishing it. But I'm gonna give y'all the breakdown of the first version of the melody. Alright, so boom, so starting off with the first melody, I went to M1, keyboard, and then I clicked dark for the character, and then I chose the soft solo. So this is what it sounds like. Alright, so boom, so for the effects, I put halftime on it, halftime again, and then I just EQ'd the low end. And with the effects, this is what it sounds like. So for the next sound, I went to Nexus, and I got me the Nexus grand piano, and this is what it sounds like. So for the effects, I actually got this from Dirkey, but I put this preset on it, which is boosting up the highs, taking a little bit off the low end off, another EQ boosting up the highs, some Valhalla vintage verb, and some Valhalla shimmer. So for the next sound, I actually went to Nexus again, and I went to arpeggios, and I got me the AR Jazzy Chills, and this is what it sounds like. The only effects on this is some halftime. Boom, so for the next sound, I actually went to Lounge Lizard, and I got me a Rhodes. It's actually the default sound on the startup, and this is what it sounds like. So for the next sound, I actually went to Nexus again, and I went to classical, and I got me the hybrid strings too, and this is what it sounds like. So boom, so for the next sound, it was actually a mistake, but I still left it in the loop. But it's actually this preset from the dark section, the wormhole one, and this is what it sounds like. So for the next sound, again, I went to Nexus, I went to classical, and I got me the BR Hollywood brass, and I just copied the bass notes, and this is what it sounds like. The only thing I have on this is some EQ taking out the low end. So for the last sound, I actually went to Nexus and got me the LD 2-minute 2 from the dance leads. So for the effects, an EQ taking most of the high end out, another EQ taking out the low end out. Then I got me Valhalla vintage verb, some Fruity Delay 3, and last but not least, some pancake going left to right. With everything together, this is what the whole melody sounds like. Alright, so boom, I hope y'all enjoy my part of the breakdown, but now I'm gonna let Dirkey talk and let him explain what he did for the melody.
Alright, so y'all seen how Leak made the melody, so now I'm gonna get into the effects I put on the melody, how I arranged the beat, and how I laid down the drums, man. So this is what the drums sound like with the sample. Yeah, let's get into the effects I put on the melody first. So whenever I use loops or samples, I always like to add my own effects to it, kind of add my own little twist to it. So for the main melody, these keys right here, send it to a mixer track. I started out with this EQ, cutting all the sub lows out and boosting some of the high mids. Like I tell you in almost every video, I always like to put an EQ at the top of my effects chain, so that way you got a clean signal, clean melody before you put any effects on it. Because if you put effects on it first and then try to EQ it all out, it's only gonna get worse, man. So make sure to put an EQ on top of your effects chain. After that, to add some ambience, some space to it, open up this Fruity Delay, this ping pong preset, and also open up a Valhalla vintage verb with these settings right here. Next, of course, we got the piano right here. Some root notes. Once again, basic EQ, same Valhalla vintage verb to blend it in with the keys a little bit. After the keys and the piano, got the brass right here. 2 melodies. What I did is I panned one to the right and one to the left to make it sound more wide. So for the effects on the brass, instead of putting effects on every individual instrument, I sent them both to a bus right here. The effects I put on that is basic EQ, once again cutting out the sub lows, lowering some of the mids, and boosting some of the high mids. And also the same Valhalla Vintage for a preset, but I messed around with the mix and low cut a little bit. Next up, we got another key melody. Basic EQ once again. Use this shelf to cut everything under around 300 hertz out. Also boost some of the high mids, and also added this Valhalla Vintage verb. These are pretty much all the melodies I used in the second part of the hook. Yeah, that's probably the busiest part of the beat, melody wise, where there are actually drums playing. And the other melodies I got left are in the pre-hook right here. This lead, this crazy ass melody, and a sub bass I added to it. So yeah, that's what the lead sounds like. Basic EQ. Reverb. That's pretty much it. Next we got this. Just some ambience, I guess. Added nothing to it, panned it to the left a little bit. Lastly, to fill up the low end and add some body, some character to it, added the sub bass. Got the sub bass. Sounds way better. Added some distortion to it. This plugin called Lil Tube from Waves. What it sounds like without the distortion. For the sub bass, I laid these notes down, following the root notes from Citrus, a free stock VST from FL Studio. And lastly, what I did, selected all the melody mixer tracks and I sent them to a bus right here. For the people that don't know what a bus does, is basically all the effects you add to a bus channel, they get applied to the mixer that's sent to the bus. So let's say I put a EQ on this, the EQ affects all of these melodies that I sent to that bus. So yeah, without the effects that I put on the bus, sample sounds like this. With the effects. Very subtle, but trust me, it sounds a lot cleaner. So the effects I put on the bus start out with this compressor to kind of compress the sample a little bit, kind of glue it all together. Use the CLA 3A compressor from Waves. After that, use this S1 from Waves as well to kind of widen it out a little bit. Then open up this plugin called Vitamin. And basically what this does, it's a multi-band saturation plugin. And I ain't gonna get too in depth in what this all does, but for the people that know what it does, y'all know. And lastly, open up this J37 for Waves and also played around with the saturation and all these knobs a little bit. So I'm gonna go over the arrangement really quick. I ain't gonna get too in depth into that either, but I got a video on arrangement, so it should pop up either here or here if you're interested in how to arrange your beats. So for the intro, I cut up the root notes of the piano since the root notes switch. But for the intro, what I did is I cut it up so it's only the first note with the keys. Like that. Another thing I added to it was this ambience. I went onto YouTube and just looked up street ambience and downloaded the MP3 file. What that sounds like. Just add some ambience to it. Then the next 8 bars of the intro, of course, you got the piano root notes that switch up. Took the keys out, added the brass to it. Also added some low end to it to kind of build up the tension for when the drums actually come in. Sounds dope. Next, we got a 16-bar hook right here. Switch up the root notes once again to build tension for the second part of the hook. Next, we got a 16-bar verse, which transitions into an 8-bar bridge right here. And of course, you want to keep the verse pretty simple. Keys in the piano. And the second part of the verse, I wanted to keep it very simple, very open for artists to go crazy on the verse. So I switched up the root notes, added these keys to it together with this lead. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the arrangement, so let's get into the drums. So for the drums, I always like to start out with the hi-hat and a snare to really get the bounce going for the beat. But instead of using one snare, I laid the snare with the clap to make it sound more full. For the hi-hat, I went into my new unreleased drum kit. It's gonna be out soon, so make sure to subscribe to the channel. I use this hi-hat right here. For the snare, went to my Rook Season drum kit. Got that snare. Of course, I laid a clap on top of that. Use this clap from my new drum kit. So together with the melody, the hi-hat, the snare, and the clap, sounds like this. For the snare and the clap is nothing crazy. I believe I pitched this snare down 1 semitone. Next for the hi-hat, start out with the basic 2-step pattern. I start out with these 2 low notes right here. Just add some character to it, kind of spice it up a little bit. Then right before the second bar, got this roll that kind of glides into the second bar, and I kind of delayed it a little bit. As you can see, I pitched it down a few notes, made it go back up to C, and then added this delayed note after that. Sounds way better in my opinion, and just adds a lot more bounce to it. As you can see, this roll is right before the second bar, so I decided to add the same roll in the same spot right before the fourth bar. But I decided to not pitch this one down and just keep it on C. Basically, all I did for the last bar is just copy this roll, these last notes right over. What that does is it adds a lot of bounce to it, since it's the same roll, the same pattern, just copied over twice. And in between these two patterns, decided to take the middle note out to build even more tension. So that's what that sounds like. Instead of this. And for the second 4 bars, I believe I copied it right over. As you can see, all the notes line up. But I switched it up at the end, as you can see, to make it unique from the first part. Basically, what I did is I got these notes, copied it down 2 notes, and kind of delayed the last note like I did right here. And the last thing I did is added this roll at the end right here. And instead of it being on C, I pitched it down to G sharp. So what that sounds like. So next, I laid down the 808, went to my Rook Season drum kit, get the Hellcat 808. Just like that. And of course, we got 2 different patterns. So I believe I laid this pattern down first, where the root notes actually switch up. Later, I made this part unique, and I put all the root notes on C sharp, since the piano we use right here got the same root notes playing twice. Otherwise, the root notes of the 808 and the piano would be different, and it would sound really off key. So what I did for the pattern is follow the root notes. So from C sharp goes down to A, up to A, and then down to A again. At the end right here, left a little gap for a second 808, but I'm gonna get into that after. It is the 808 pattern I laid down. So I want to keep it very simple in the first 2 bars. Only got 2 notes playing. And of course, I copied it over to the A note right here. For the 3rd and the 4th bar, copied this straight over, but I added a note in between. And at the end, also cut this note in half and pitched it up to E. After that, it goes down to A, same notes like I said before. And later, I pitched these notes up an octave. As you can see, it's the same pattern as I added right here. And at the end, instead of staying on A5, pitched it down an octave and left a little gap for the second 808 I added. Second 808 I used right here is a custom 808 from my new drum kit. Sounds like this. And it's perfect to add in these type of breaks. So that's what that sounds like. And it's just something that not a lot of people would expect, so that's why I added it. So after the 808, the hi, the snare, and the clap, added this counter snare to it. Also from my drum kit, used this snare right here. What I did is filled in some empty gaps just to kind of add some more bounce to it, and also added this roll at the end. Start out with this pattern right here. Got these 2 notes that I penned from left to right, and the pattern I laid down here is exactly the same as this pattern. As you can see, it lines up perfectly. But like I said, add this roll to it, played around with the velocities, also played around with the panning a little bit. I didn't want to add some sort of crazy snare roll, so I kept it very simple, very subtle. Next, to make the 808 punch a little bit harder, went to my Rook Season drum kit, got this open hat, and laid it on top of some of the 808s. Next, I wanted to add some percussion to it to once again fill in some empty gaps and add more bounce to it. So we use this perk right here, this perk right here from a Rook Season drum kit. As you can see right here, they're almost right after each other. So that's what that sounds like together. Copy it over right here. Only thing I did is I added some reverb to this perk instead of this. And it just blends better with the rest of the beat. Last thing I added were these 3 little zaps at the end of every 8 bars. So with the melody and the drums, this is what we ended up with. So that's how I make Detroit beats, man. So like always, I want to thank y'all for watching the video all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video. I believe we just hit 13K on the channel, so very thankful for that. I want to thank y'all. Also, don't forget to check out my boy 808 Leak. I'll have his channel linked down in the description, so make sure to show some love, subscribe to the channel. We also did a video on his channel, so make sure to check that out as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me today. So don't forget to let me know in the comments what you're trying to see next on the channel. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, check out my drum kits, join my Discord community. Yeah, I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video, man. Y'all stay safe.